welcome to this special show where I have two of the biggest players in the paint industry. Now, paint industry, the paint stocks at least have seen a lot of beating. Asian Paints, for instance, lost 30% from the day from November 8th. It obviously was not the Trump factor, it was more the demonetization. Mr. Anand and Abhijit, thank you very much for joining me. Well, let me start with Abhijit first. What has been the experience in demonetization?
See, in November, there was a drop initially, after this was announced. Obviously, there was a lot of panic in the market and, people didn't know what to do. And then it started gradually picking up. So, we were, November sales therefore did get affected to a large extent. For
paint industry, Mr. Anand, the bigger fear is if consumption takes a long leave, is that a fear that, because conspicuous consumption or discretionary consumption, if you please, needs the confidence of the consumer, will it take, maybe 3 quarters, 2 quarters to return?
Let's put it this way. I think the paint industry as a whole, while not growing as vigorously as it did in the first decade of this century, has slowed down a bit over the last 3 years. And this year it was continuing more or less in that same manner or maybe marginally even better. It largely depends on how the economy per se will do and perform. Demonetization, as Abhijit said, did have an initial shock factor. But let's see, I think it's very early days to jump to any conclusion. I think, like he says, the current quarter is the most important quarter to realize implications, but you might have another set of variables coming in, your GST, your anything in the budget, so one doesn't know.
Because of the OPEC meeting, crude prices also had an impact on paint and those kinds of sectors.
I don't think they had, correction there. While they had an impact on, some of the raw materials, but I don't think any of us increased prices for them to have an impact as far as the consumers were concerned.
No, not as far as consumers are concerned. But I'm just saying for the industry, is the price of oil, and now people tell us that next year, this year rather, because the OPEC freeze gets underway, OPEC and non-OPEC freeze gets underway, people are talking about $60 very freely for crude. So at a time when demand is not able to take the impact of higher product prices, will this be a difficult period? Will 2017 be more difficult than 2016, even in terms of raw materials?
I think the benefits we have got in the last 2 years in terms of soft raw material prices are definitely going to vanish. I think all of us made much more money than we should have ideally done. But we simply made that money, we didn't know which way prices are going to go. I mean, it was, they dropped so much that you couldn't believe they're going to stay at that level. They've come back. Whether they'll go higher, we'll see.
But to come back to the discretionary consumption which we were discussing, real estate gets singled out on the demonetization front because that sector is believed to be handling a lot of cash. So do you think that paint industry could get singled out because the real estate sector has gotten more cash dealing?
The repainting demand in the architectural, the new projects or new business demand in the architectural business may be only about 15%, 50%. So I don't think that by itself will have that significant a demand. The greater thing is you're right, the feel-good factor in the Indian public as large. Mundane things like marriage seasons and other things.
Yes. Absolutely.
Some of the rural areas were very adversely affected, that one knows, because of the cash shortage.
So the cash crunch will go away.
Yes.
But will the psychology that, I lost so much money or someone will come hunting for me, will that keep discretionary consumption and therefore painting a little less in 2017 than 2016?
I don't think that is a factor. I think the factor is whether we have lost employment or that employment that is lost really comes back. If people are employed and earning, I think painting as a thing will continue to do well. But if people go out of jobs and various businesses go out of, then there are going to be issues.
One small boost which we got on the 31st when Prime Minister came and announced, he did mention about 3-4% of subsidy being given to the middle class. If you look at the Janta, the middle class which is there, in India. That's a huge segment, and they really cannot afford the type of house prices that are there today. So with this subsidy, if this building boom comes about, I think that's a big positive as far as the paint industry is concerned.
Is the interest rate cut, which was announced, likely to be a very big growth booster?
If the economy grows, paint industry will grow.
But do you think because there was this giant rate cut, as Abhijit is saying, do you think it is good enough to boost consumption demand for houses? Is that a good trigger?
There has to be investment. It's not just a rate cut by itself that is going to generate jobs, employment and growth. We haven't been really an investment-led economy. There have been two strong spurts of growth in the Indian economy which were led to some levels of liberalization. First the liberalization in 91 and then the opening up of the insurance sector, banking sector, etc. in this century, so to speak. So these boosted employment in a big way and as a result boosted the economy.
Therefore,
if the government pushes heavily into investment, infrastructure investment, the private sector also comes in, I think you'll see growth. But without investment, going to higher level of growth is going to be difficult.
So what would you want the budget to do?
I am personally not very worried about a budget per se. I think investment has to increase. I don't think there's one single factor in the budget that's going to drive investment. So unless investment increases, unless the government spends on, say, infrastructure and a whole variety of areas which generate both employment and further spending by other industries who have to invest to cater to the requirements of the infrastructure, overall growth is not really going to speed up.
Well, actually, we have a segment on CNBC TV 18 where we ask our guests, if I were FM.
I think that's the biggest misnomer. Okay. It's not the finance ministry that acts by itself. It's the entire government that works together, and there needs to be collaboration and co-working of all aspects of the government. So when you're talking of the finance ministry, it can generate funds, it can improve efficiencies of working, it can improve the financial sector to an extent, but unless all other sectors, industry, railways, communication, tourism, all really work together to bring growth to the country, it's not going to be easy.
Well, Abhijit, you must not disappoint me. If you were FM, make your choice.
See, I think, two things which are relatively, one is having done this demonetization with a little bit of a dip in demand. I would think that, I should be, doing something to boost up the consumer sentiment. Whether it is in the form of taxes or relief in terms of other means, that's something which is expected. And, I'm sure, anyone in this position today will be looking at that from that perspective. Second is, this housing thing has been already announced.
Yes.
And I expect, further encouragement in the budget, largely because it has implications across sectors.
Yes.
It has cement, it has steel, it has construction labor, it has paint, it has tiles. So, once you boost construction, you boost a significant segment of the, economy as a whole.
Okay. Well, a final question on GST, since we discussed so much about it. Do you think that may be a disruptive factor in 2017, even if it becomes a constructive factor in 2018?
I think if it's a disruptive factor, it will be disruptive for a short period of time. I don't expect it to be disruptive to really impact the full year. Yes, if GST was getting implemented from 1st April, which hopefully it is not,
it is not.
then it would definitely be a disruptive factor for 16-17.
Actually, for the paint industry, if it started on July 1, at least you get the summer for painting, because in any case, monsoons people don't paint.
That's the ideal time. But I don't know how to maneuver that yet.
No, I think others have maneuvered it for you. But generally, you think that GST may take away 6 months of
I don't think 6 months. I think it'll create... See, I don't think sales will drop as the final consumer sales, because somebody is going to paint his house, is going to buy paint. Okay. So the final stocking, destocking and certain phenomena like that may occur, but which will not have a repercussion more than a quarter.
That's, of course, there. Mr. Anand and Abhijit, thank you very much for speaking with me on all the issues that's affecting not just the paint industry, but Indian economy in general.